I reckon we bounce off a lot of diet stuff, or we could even start with real keen to get into like some sectionals on the timing of day. So like potentially
Yeah.
like first thing in the morning, like kind of thing, like some preparations, because really that's a big thing that I want to get into and provide content for. Like, first thing in the morning, like all the kind of strategies, because the amount of times the clients ask me about like what's the best prep or I was chatting about it with other people, and it's like literally you could spend 6 hours doing things in the morning if you wanted the best lifestyle. Like, what's the best way to like kind of summarize your approach?
Like just from a pure eating perspective.
Not just eating, but just everything. Like you
Yeah.
you got your meditation techniques, you got your sleeping, like how often you sleep and when you're sleeping too, and that kind of thing. You got all your mindfulness techniques as well too that you'd know more about in the morning and that kind of thing. And then looking at whether or not, yeah, I guess you're preparing for like sport and performance, or you're just preparing for like a day's work or whatever, and what that kind of looks like. So
Because are you a morning routine guy?
yeah, 100%.
Run me through yours. What do you do?
So like when I get up first thing in the morning, is I first thing I always do is I'll get up, generally go to the bathroom because I can't hold my bladder for long at all these days. I
Join the
get
club.
I get, yeah, I know. I get into my non-stim pre, so I've taken that approach with the non-stim pre, which is essential for me these days. So it's my caffeine. I don't really have coffee unless I'm not training that day.
Yeah.
Generally, my coffee days are normally my like if I go out or whatever with a group of people, or if it's just like a non-caffeine, non-training day.
But when you say non-stim, are you talking about like synthetic stims that are in the pre-workout as well, other than caffeine?
Yeah, 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 yep,
Yep.
yep,
Yep.
yep. So I've got like a whole range of them. You've probably seen my like 20 different ones,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It's like a stuff shop in your cupboard.
yeah, I know it's bloody ridiculous,
I love it.
and it'll keep growing, that's for sure. But yeah, I always have that, and then like straight away, it just depends on what I'm doing. So like if I'm going and looking for high performance because I always train in the morning. Then I'll eat if I'm looking for strength and output and that kind of stuff. And at the moment, I just have rice bubbles. I don't. I'm like a bit weird. Some people can't do it, but I just have rice bubbles on their own without milk or anything. But that I've found has been really good because rice bubbles is just pretty much rice. Like it's real well known in the bodybuilding world for that. But then you also get you've got that little bit of sugar in there that gives you that glucose kick as well too.
Do they add sugar to rice bubbles?
Nah, there's a little bit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like it's in terms of rice, like rice is like more of a slow digestion, whereas like rice bubbles would be fast glucose,
Yeah.
so you'll get it to the muscles quicker.
Okay.
So I always pump rice bubbles out, and what it does is it doesn't fill me up because most people, every time you talk to people about it in the morning, they're just like, "There's no way I can eat it in the morning," and I'm like, "Yeah, the rice bubbles is just enough where I don't feel that empty stomach feeling like if I'm going to train, but I'm getting enough in where I get that fuller."
Hmm.
Um, the digestion kind of thing, and then I start that process, and then I get the fuel source for training. And honestly, I trialed both of them, and this is what I was talking about strength output when you're training. But like, if I don't have my rice bubbles in the morning, and I've tried it just as as kind of like a test, and
Experiment.
yeah, pretty much. And I'll literally most of the times I'll lift like 15, 20 kilos less. Honestly, that just
Yep.
goes to show. And so this is where we're coming back to you read everything, you get so much about eating and not eating before training and before performance, and so many people are like, oh yeah, fast before performance, but I know from a fact and from years of trial and error that you're not going to be able to lift as strong as if you don't get those meals in. Before then, you need to have that fuel source to be able to fill up the muscles, to be able to feel full. And for me, like, it's just more the energy. It's more the energy and feeling full that actually allows me to produce more energy output.
It's like because we use this analogy heaps in psych of like filling up the car with petrol.
Yeah,
You don't fill the
yeah,
car with petrol, it's not going anywhere.
yeah,
So it's the same. Like it's at its most simple version, right?
yeah, 100%.
Same
And then
shit.
and then what I learned. So obviously for me, that's in kind of like a growth phase where I'm trying to produce good output and I'm training in the morning. But then, like particularly with people that I'm dieting that are trying to lose weight, and this is the transition between are you doing cardio? Are you going and doing, running? Are you going and doing a, professional sport? What are you actually doing? Because sometimes we're trying to aim for weight loss, or we're trying to aim for speed production and things like that. So sometimes I might fast people if I'm really looking for weight loss, but it's rare that I'll fast people. It's only probably more so in the bodybuilding world, or say you were, potentially trying to cut weight for an elite sport, whatever. But if that wasn't the case, then I wouldn't fast anyone. Sometimes I give people like protein bars, which is underestimated, like things straight in the morning before you train. And that's something that I also had for years. So I'd have 10 to 15 grams of protein. And what that would do is that would fill up my protein sources, and then it would speed up fat metabolism, because I would have had 12 hours since my meal of getting any proper fats in. My fat stores are depleted as it is, and then the fat cells and everything in terms of the fatty acid cycle and stuff is going to be accelerated when you're working out. And I think that's where you'll get a lot of, potential weight loss gains and things like that, if that's what you want to do. But you won't be burning muscle, unlikely, because you filled up with something like a protein bar or 15 to 20 grams of protein without actually going and eating, bacon and eggs or something, which is going to make you feel sick and you're not going
It'll
to be
be
able to.
so heavy. So
Yeah.
like, because from memories, take me back to sort of undergrad science days, but it was like your body will prioritize the fuel source depending on what's in the system,
Yeah.
and then depending on other things, like we could probably do a whole chat on like alcohol and what that does to your fuel
Hmm.
sources and priorities and things like that. But
Hmm.
for things like the morning,
Yeah.
if you've had, like, hypothetically, you had a large pizza the night before for dinner, right? But you've still been
Hmm.
fasting for 10, 12 hours while you're asleep. If you then had a protein bar versus eggs versus rice bubbles, is there any difference there? Or is that just going to be like, it's fuel, we're going to use it? It's whatever's there first.
Yeah, I guess it depends how you look at it. Like if you've had a pizza and you've kind of gone in overdrive, and your body probably hasn't metabolized all of that within that 12-hour window, then yeah, you're probably going to look at burning through the pizza and the carb sources first, because you're in overdrive of that compared to, the protein, because you've probably got a ton more carbs in the system rather than the protein. And obviously, I mean, pretty well known fact, but for people that don't know, like carbs is going to be your first fuel source, which you kind of utilize in most occasions, particularly if it's already broken down and stored in the muscle and things like that. So you're looking at getting output from those carb sources, which is going to generate, you want to kind of get enough carbs in there where you're going to be able to generate great output, but you're not going to be storing excess carbs, which can later be converted to fats and things like that, which is what a lot of people don't understand, is those fuel sources can go through different cycles in the body to then be converted to different other sources like fat and that kind of thing if you're in excess of it. So that's why carbs is the kind of thing which is, it's probably the hardest thing, to train people on how to diet and how to utilize it, is because based on that, you're going to have, if you have excess, you're going to potentially have more fat storage. If you're not having enough, you're not going to have enough output. If the timing's not right, then you're not going to, generate the amount of power that you want during your workouts, or you're not going to be able to be, have a really good mentality throughout the day. Your brain's going to be
Mm.
kind of, all over the shop. So carbs is always been, and for me, after doing it for years now, it's the essential that you're always playing around with. The other two are something that if you can get them right, they can kind of stay at a similar level regardless of your goals. You're just kind of slowly increasing or slowly decreasing based on the goals or whatever. But carbs is one where you can really throw it around.
Are you a fan of I suppose you probably are, like, if people are dieting and stuff, just to be aware of what they're doing, but things like MyFitnessPal and calorie tracking and shit like that. Like, are
I
you on
used
board or?
Yeah, I used to use MyFitnessPal. I mean, I've still got it on my phone. I don't use it anymore because I love the challenge of being able to, these days, know what I'm doing from a day to day kind of thing. Like if I have a meal, I'm like, yeah, this has this amount of, food sources and that kind of thing. Or if I'm on a set diet, I know exactly what I'm eating and how much it has in it kind of thing. But for anyone that needs to track it, yeah, it's fantastic. I think what I might have mentioned, last time we had a chat is like sometimes people will have those apps and then they'll go, oh, well, it's fine because I swapped my rice for a banana. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
things like that. And that doesn't work. So something that I always, teach my clients is I'm like, well, that's fine if you've had to get a different food for a different reason, but we need to know what that is and what the changes are, so then we can potentially adjust things accordingly,
Yeah, because
because
it's like it's a bit like because there's even a difference between like white rice and brown rice,
hmm
right? Like
Yep.
where it's not as simple as just like, oh, I'm just going to substitute this thing for this thing. It's like, well, yeah, sure, but like they're different.
Yeah. It's the same as when I had plain chicken for 4 weeks straight. People are like, why don't you season your food? I'll tell you why I don't season my food is because there's certain things in the seasoning that you can't have. Sodium, potassium levels, all that kind of stuff that you're trying to change. And I guess what we talked about last time is it's kind of like you're not really focusing unless you're bodybuilding. You're not going to really focus too much on that. However, if people aren't achieving their goals, those are the little things that if you can educate well and you can explain that well, then that can be the progression moving forward. And that can be the difference between someone, you know, continuing on with their goals or just getting to a point where they're really stagnant and kind of being like, oh, it's too much work, it's too much effort, that kind of thing. So just those
Mm.
little triggers. So yeah, but I mean, like that's generally how my morning would look. If someone was really looking at, I think we were chatting about your brother, like really keen to potentially put on a lot of size, and you've got a fast metabolism, which I do have. If I was really looking to put on size, there might be a time where I would potentially have a much bigger meal for breakfast, but it's gonna you're gonna be a bit lethargic when you're training and stuff like that. If you're training first thing in the morning because your body is just in digestion mode, so it's harder. But obviously, you're going to be getting more calories in. You get more calories in, you burn those calories that are sitting in the body, and then you're unlikely to withdraw any protein sources, any fat sources that have been stored there overnight or anything like that. Then straight away you finish your workout, you get some big meals in, and then you're looking at getting past your energy output. You're getting your energy input kind of increasing towards the end of the day to be able to put on mass, which is why I love training in the morning because and the morning routine is because if you are really serious about your goals, you can tick all the really hard things off within that first 2 hour, 3 hour window where, you don't have kids to look after, you don't have to get to work, you don't have to get ready. You're going to have these, external factors that are going to change your day on a given day, that are kind of uncontrollable. So if the first thing you do is you get up, you have your meal, you have your supplements, you have all that, then you've ticked off so many of those crucial, dieting and nutrition and whatever and just lifestyle kind of like goals before you've gotten to the harder parts of your day, which are going to be uncontrollable.
Mm.
And not only that, like you've gone past the phase of you've gone past your fasting phase, which is obviously overnight, and then you've kind of replenished. You've gotten in some good fuel sources. You've got your training in. You've increased your metabolism, and then you quickly get in, high amounts of protein or high amounts of carbs or whatever you're looking for after training, and then you've set yourself up for constant success throughout the day. Whereas if you go to work and then you look to train, and it's fine, we will, obviously work with whatever works for you. If you can't train in the morning or you're not a morning person, that's fine. But then you're potentially going to work and then you had to stay back an extra half an hour and you missed your meal. And then people are like, oh, well, it's fine. I still got my training in, but I just didn't get to eat. That's crucial. Like if you're talking about long-term serious goals and you're missing meals regularly, that replenishment that you're not going to miss if you're constantly getting up in the morning and having it first thing as soon as you wake up, like my rice bubbles are never going to be missed. It's going to be each morning.
The ritual.
Yeah. So yeah, if you go from that position, then it's you're juggling with a lot of external factors. Then you get back into your weigh in each week, and you're kind of like, well, I'm not progressing. Or we're talking about with a lot of my clients at the moment, I'm talking about them getting body scans so they can really go, well, I'm losing weight. It's fantastic, but I want to know if I'm gaining muscle as well too.
Mm. Or at least
And
keeping muscle.
Yeah, exactly. So, and
Yeah.
normally, if you get it right, I've said this to most of my clients, if you get it right, you're never really going to be losing, you shouldn't be losing muscle at any
Mm.
point in your training, unless that's, if that's a goal for anyone, but for majority of people and how crucial skeletal muscle mass is as we get older, I don't really think it should be a goal for anyone to be losing muscle.
But all
So,
that, like all the longevity stuff, is now like
outrageous.
it's pretty conclusive on
Yeah,
like strength training is really really good for anyone at any
exactly.
age. So
Exactly.
yeah, and I saw actually I think it was Huberman. It was the VO2 max. They did some VO2 max testing stuff. So I think in layperson's terms, that's essentially just like anaerobic output, like
Yeah,
maximal anaerobic output threshold.
yeah,
That's not going to make any sense at all to anyone who hasn't heard that before. But it's like as hard as you can perform for the longest amount of time. You
yeah,
essentially like reach a ceiling and then you can't really go any further.
yeah,
The more that you did that when you were younger, there was like a correlation between that and longevity,
yeah,
like
yeah.
which was reassuring as someone who pumped out God knows how many laps in the pool,
Yeah.
where it was like definitely threshold stuff. But the strength and conditioning side of it, so because on a diet, like I struggle to eat. Like you've seen me. Like we've known each other for a long time. I'd be like I'm putting weight on, and
Mm,
like a couple weeks in, I'm like, dude, this is just so much food. Like this is a lot. You're like,
yeah,
you got to keep going, man.
yeah.
It's
Is
hard.
that uncomfortable zone? Like, I mean,
Mm,
how many people have, and they just go, Brendo, I can't eat that much and stuff like that. And I said, it's uncomfortable. Like if you've got a fast metabolism, so many people think it's a blessing. I'm always going to clients and I'm like, oh, I lost 9 kilos over the break. And they're like, how does someone lose 9 kilos over Christmas? Like, how's that possible? It's just because I'm not eating 8 to 10 meals a day. Like, what's my normal routine?
yeah.
And because my metabolism just kicks in. And for a lot of people that is a blessing because you're not packing on unnecessary pounds when you just potentially looking at food, and
Mm,
that is very true. But the other end of that is if you're going to look to potentially gain muscle and stuff like that, it's not easy. You got to be putting yourself in an uncomfortable zone. You're putting yourself in an uncomfortable zone with your training and your daily routine, but you're also an uncomfortable zone with your food, and you got to be prepared to be uncomfortable. And that's where we're looking at, I guess, probably separating the two in terms of a bodybuilding world and being uncomfortable, and then obviously like a lifestyle and a fitness where you're getting a little bit uncomfortable, but you're not pushing the organs to a point where they have too much food to digest and stuff like that. So we're obviously educating people about what's an unhealthy range to be at and what potentially bodybuilding looks like, and then taking that step back and being like, you still achieve your goals. It'll probably take a little bit longer because you're not obsessing over it, but it's a much healthier way to do it. It's a much healthier approach to it, which is pivotal for me. It's pivotal for me, like with my own training and stuff moving forward now that I've achieved a lot of my own personal goals, but it's also pivotal for me as a coach and a strength coach and a
mm.
nutrition. I only want someone to go through that if they're completely ready and they've made that decision to really get uncomfortable, and if they're not, then we can achieve their goals in a much safer and appropriate way as well too.
Yeah. But also, if anyone's listening to this and they're like, oh, I've got X, Y, Z health issues that we need to be aware of as well. Like we have dietitians, sports
Yeah,
dietitians, registered dietitians that can help you with diet stuff if you need to.
yeah,
Where it's like from more of the complex side of things, if you have a comorbid condition or whatever it might be, um, then yeah, let us know. We can help
yeah,
out with that. We'll send you the right people. But the diet
yeah,
stuff is, I think it's good that we can talk about this like in this way because from what I've seen online with a lot of these coaches, it's garbage. It's complete garbage. Where it's like there's no consideration for anyone's condition, anyone's individual genetic makeup, the
yeah.
history. It's just like, oh, you have this diet, and everything will be sweet. And you're like, that's actually really dangerous. That's not good for you.
My favorite one, and this is not, I'd never mention anyone because I'm like, everyone can do their own thing. And I'm really, I really do
Nah,
vouch for.
name names.
I really am vouching for people getting out there and giving it a crack in the world. But there's potential. I've had a lot of people come to me and they go, 4 or 5 different people go and see a certain coach. Might be quite well known, in Australia or America or things like that. And they go, hey Brendo, like look at our diets or look at our strength programs. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
Exactly the same, you know? So you can't have someone that, may even be, 20 kilos heavier than someone, or maybe, like going to achieve a completely different goal, looking at, doing some anaerobic performance rather than some strength output. You can't have them on the same diet just because they've signed up and that's what's out there in the literature. These kind of foods are good, or these kind of programs are really good. You just can't do it. And I think our biggest approach moving forward is we want people to have screening tools where they're checking
Mm.
in each week. I want people to be checking in each week because it's the only way where you're going to get the best out of it, where you can literally be like, hey, I ate this each day, and I did this. I achieved these goals. I didn't achieve these goals for these reasons. I had these setbacks. I had these things going on in my life. And I'm like, sweet, we've got
Yeah.
mindset coach for that. Let's reapproach. Like, do you want to have a quick checkup and chat about, why those kind of hurdles, have come up, or were they just uncontrollable factors? And we'll just kind of go, yep, that's fine. These things happen in life and we'll move forward. And why did you eat those kind of foods? Like, like was there something going on where you really just needed a bit of comfort, or like,
Mm.
are we eating certain foods because we've got potential reasons why we feel better if we're chucking sugars in, or we're getting to the point where we're not getting enough sleep, and when we're up late, we want to have we've got those sugar cravings and that kind of thing because we're just watching movies and we haven't eaten dinner for since like 7 o'clock, and then we're starting to crave food, and the only thing we've got in the cupboard is some lollies or some chocolate or whatever.
Big bagger. Yeah,
Exactly.
because it will, like, the other thing too is like the stress, depending on where your stress levels are at, that'll flare up things like cortisol and shit like that. But
Yeah.
like your immune system is compromised, so there's like increased inflammation, but increased, like, we in psych we call them hedonistic behaviors. So it's like the short term reward thinking. Like, I'm
Mm.
stressed, so I'm gonna have, yeah, the chips or the whole block of chocolate or whatever, because it's like, fuck, I just want to feel good for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
That all that stuff is really good to consider, especially moving forward for us, right? Like, someone's like, yeah, I had a really crap week,
Mm.
because we're looking at the diet. Oh man, well, like, you blew out this week. What happened? Oh, it was super stressful. I had to pick up so and so's work, and the kids were sick, and like, like, stuff happens, right? It's life.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think the thing that gets me, and like, I'm reminded of this all the time, is everything's interconnected. So no one thing is just its own issue. It's
Exactly.
like, if you're stressed, that is going to affect everything. If
Hmm.
your diet's off, that's probably likely to impact a whole bunch of things you didn't even think of. If your sleep is off,
Mm.
everything's going to be screwed up. So, and it was nice actually. There was a sleep researcher, Matt Walker. He's awesome. Have you read Why We Sleep?
I've heard of it. I've
It's
heard of it.
Yeah,
I haven't read it.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's pretty sciencey. It's pretty heavy.
Mm.
But he outlines things like, it might have been him actually, maybe it was taken out of context online somewhere, but it was like, do you sleep in a week? So like a
Mm.
weekly total versus like, oh, I had a horrendous night. I was like, yeah, like, you can survive on one night of crap sleep. Two,
Mhm.
three, like, just do it over a week. If you need to catch up, do the catch up. If you need naps, take the naps. If you can, a lot of people with young kids and stuff can't do that, but there's this is the importance of, and I've learned this through psych, is the importance of the individualized approach in what are your issues and your specific, like, you as the individual. There's a whole bunch of stuff that we can figure out, but we've got to basically lay it all out on the table first.
Mhm.
My sleep sucks, my diet's off, I never get to the gym, but I have all of these things in my life that stop me from doing the perfect, having the perfect routine, getting to the
Mm.
gym, eating really healthy, whatever it is. Okay, cool, that's fine. We can work around those.
Exactly.
We just got to figure it out. We have to know that stuff though,
Yeah.
versus you taking something off the internet where it's like, here's this cookie cutter plan it's just not going to fit at all. It's
No.
just it's
No.
a dead end. You're
Yeah.
going down a road and it's a dead end, and when you get to the end, you're going to be like, well, that sucks.
Hmm.
Yep, and you're still going to have to turn around and come back. So
Hmm.
it's the individualized thing is, I think, is where we probably differ from a lot of the stuff that's out there. Well, at least that I've seen anyway, where they say it's individualized, but it's basically like, let's have a 15-minute value call or whatever they want to call it, and it's fine. It's something, but it's not ongoing, long term. Let's actually do this properly.
Yep. And
High
like,
high standard.
yeah. And like that can be make or break. Like you could have someone that's gone through their New Year's resolution and gone, this is my goal for this year, and they go and they get a, like you said, cookie cutter program. It's not individualized. They put so much time and effort into getting themselves right, giving themselves more time, taking time off work, getting the kids into daycare, whatever that might be, so they can spend more time on themselves. They do that, they hit the dead end, and that for most people could be the end of that
Mm.
journey. And that can be really hard to then go, well, I'm going to try something else because, they're all, how do I know what's different out there? Because there's so much out there. And I guess the biggest thing that we wanted to provide is, there's everything is explainable. Everything that you're going through and everything that we can achieve, we'll be able to make sense of. And if we can't, we can outsource it. We can find the answers. If it's a health condition or something like that, we can figure out those answers with dietitians, with even GPs and stuff like that. We have that advanced knowledge to be able to refer on and to be able to get you back in and look at then taking that next approach moving forward. And that's what excites me, is that if it's done and it's done right, then anyone that wants to achieve a certain goal should be able to achieve a certain goal within reason. So, that's something that I've always been confident with, and that's, I guess, where you get into this industry for, is to be able to fix those solutions and allow people to achieve the goals that they want, that a lot of people think, oh, it's unachievable, or I lost 10 kilos and things like that. To me is so empowering, because like you get people into that position and it can come, you know this too well, like that can change your mindset towards every aspect of life. Like once you've
Yep.
achieved something like that, you can go, okay, well, now I can help, my kids do this, and now I can help my friends do this, and now I can, like, I can live longer, I can do all these kind of things. And that, is awesome. Like that, to be able to do that is fantastic. So that's one thing that I guess when we first started this, that was my biggest focus, is to be like, I've got that knowledge. I've been now able to try and empower myself to a position where I can do that for myself. But I love to be able to, share that knowledge with everyone, and also keep growing my own knowledge, in terms of that, and bouncing off each other in areas where we're probably not, like you've got so much expertise in areas where I, potentially don't have as much expertise in that kind of thing. So to be able to do that together allows us to cover a wide range of topics, and the crucial aspect between physical and psychological,
Mm.
stuff, which is massive. So yeah, really cool. And I think like that to me is not, yeah, it's really hard to find. It really is hard to find. And to be able to have weekly checkups with either of us, to be able to explain whatever's happening, to be able to go, you actually probably need to, chat to Nick, I really want you to try these techniques, or, we understand that you're going through some, tough times in your life. This has got nothing to do with you being able to eat food or not eat food, like you need to vent, you need to, potentially move past this point, get some good, coaching strategies and things like that, and then we can reapproach the diet, instead of just going, no, you got to keep doing your best
Yeah.
to try. You know what I mean? Like
Pushing
that's,
shit uphill.
coaches like these days, like you got to coach, and they'll just go, oh, like, well, if you're not going to adhere to the program, then I can't help you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's just, yeah, it's just not gonna work. Like, it's not gonna work. It doesn't make anyone feel good and stuff like that. So you got to get to the basis of why people can't adhere. Like what is
Mm.
the reason for that? Because everyone's gonna go through that phase.
For
And the best
me,
thing,
for me, sorry, it's a
you're right.
you just made me think of there's a concept of upward spiral and downward spiral, right? So
Yeah,
psychologically, anyway, which well, it affects everything, but your like the downward spiral starts with maybe that cookie cutter diet didn't work too well, and I'm
mm,
feeling defeated, and then I had a crap week at work, and the family's annoying me, and right, and it all compounds, and you're heading down. Versus the opposite, which is essentially the opposite of that. Like this little thing did work, and I had some wins this week, and I paid attention to those wins, and all of that does this.
yep,
And you don't really know. It's the benefit of hindsight, right? Like you don't know until after the fact.
yep,
Same thing as being in flow. When people, oh yeah, flow, it feels so good. It's like, what does it feel like? So, I don't really know. Like you don't really know until you're out of it, and you're like, I was in it.
Mm,
You don't know when you're in it until
yeah.
afterwards. Same
Yeah.
thing with this. It's like, but I feel like in a downward spiral, you know when you're in trouble. Like you
Yeah.
know you're heading down. You're like, oh, this is not good. I need to do something to get out of this. And a lot of the time, we do exactly the wrong thing.
Yeah.
We're like, I just need to be happy and focus on this extreme goal. And it's like, nah. Like very, very slowly, right? It's like
Mm.
Austin Powers where he's trying to turn the car around in the corridor and he's stuck in the. It's like that shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're gonna get stuck, right?
And I think, like, for me, like, I'll always reflect back to my bodybuilding and stuff like that because, as you know, it taught me so much. But, like, in terms of nutrition and stuff like that, it is, if you can do it to a certain level and a certain degree, it teaches you all those fundamental life goals on such a minute level. So, something as simple as dieting is like, you can go on a run. Like you can be on that downward spiral for like 4, 6 months, and people can be telling you you're on a downward spiral. But like you said, you're in it. You don't really realize. You don't know what's going on. You're
Mm.
struggling to kind of moderate your emotions and stuff like that. You're dieting poorly. It'll
Mm-hmm.
show within 2 days. It'll show within 3 days. It'll show within 4 days. So like not only is it, and it does set, like we said, like it's about setting those boundaries so you don't want to become obsessive with it. But then you learn, you're like, okay, well, these are the kind of things where I've got to learn these daily habits, not just in dieting, but in everyday life, that once the spiral starts, if I can get out of it sooner, then the spiral's nowhere near as bad. I'm not as far down and all that kind of stuff. So just with dieting, like so many people, they'll be like, oh, Brenda, I had KFC today. Like, that's cool. No stress. Like, why'd you have it? Let's approach. Can you get straight back on the diet? Can you have a little bit less calories tomorrow? All that kind of stuff. And then come back the next day and, yeah, we got back on or not. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of people will be going, well, I stuffed my diet this week, so I'll try again next week. You know what I mean?
See. So we just got to unpack that a little bit more because for people listening who are trying to maybe lose weight, for example, right? It's like, oh I stuffed my diet because I had KFC. Okay, cool. That question there of like, what led to KFC?
Mm,
What happened in the hours leading up to that, right?
mhm,
Because people don't just it's just like, oh, I'm just driving past. I'm just going to duck in here knowing full well that I'm on a diet. Like, there's stuff that happens.
mhm.
You're like, I need comfort. I want something tasty and quick and comforting, and I'm going for that. Okay, cool. What was the thing that happened before then?
Yeah.
And the pattern will emerge, and then the awareness comes in where it's like, that's that thing that makes me go and get KFC or makes
Mhm,
me go and grab a six pack on my way home. Like,
mhm,
it's the pattern. And
mhm.
that's the habitual stuff where when the awareness comes in, that's the winning formula, right? Because it's like
Yeah.
I now know that this is what it looks like prior to me doing this thing, where I then
Mhm.
beat myself up for hours or days afterwards.
Exactly.
So good, such an important
It's
question.
Yeah, awareness about behavioral traits that lead to that is more crucial than the actual doing the deed itself. And that's so crucial. That's what we're here for, is to unpack that. We don't expect people to understand that themselves because it's so, it is advanced thinking. You know what I mean? Because
Mm,
we might know it in the back of our minds, like, oh yeah, I had a crap day. I know why I got KFC. But, we're breaking that down to the next level and being like, okay, well, let's unpack that more. You know what I mean? Like, why? Why was it, so crap? Or why did you feel like food was the first thing you had to go to instead of potentially going and playing some tennis or something like that? You know what I mean? Like doing something
yeah.
where it might also make you feel good, but you felt like, food was, the first thing you wanted to go to. And you'll
Mm,
see with my diets, and I think we've worked this in as a transition of working together. But these days, you'll hear, I did so many programs this weekend, but like these days, I never have. I'm trying to stick away from cheat meals as the describing word. It's now reward meals. So I
mm,
have my
I like that.
reward meals. It's literally you get your reward meals on these days. Everyone starts off with more reward meals so that their diet is more achievable. And it may mean that for me, an everyday diet is more stricter than, staple diets that you get online. So you're potentially not going to get you might not get as much variety in your everyday meals, but you get rewards. And the rewards are a reward for your hard work,
It's
and they're
awesome.
there. They're there to show you what you're working towards and not to set unachievable goals of like, you've been, just kind of run of the mill eating whatever you want for 6 months. I expect you to do this 4 weeks without, any cheat meals. And that's what I don't want to label them as. I want it to be a reward of your hard work. I want you to be able to moderate your stress levels throughout the week, to be able to bounce off your coach, to be able to structure what's going on in your life, to be like, that's okay. Brendan's allowed me to have a reward meal. Can I contact him? I want to have my reward meal a night earlier because, it's been tough. I'm fatigued. The family wants to have a meal tonight, whatever it might be. Sure, we'll bring it forward. I'll adjust your meals. This is what your next 3 days look like after your reward meal tonight,
Yeah,
So that is
that's so
important to
good.
people. Yeah, because every time I see people and they're just like, I just ruined it, Brenda. And I'm like, what do you mean you ruined it? What are you talking about? I was like, what'd you do? You ate a meal? Cool. Just let me adjust some things. And they're like, no, 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 I feel so bad. What are you feeling bad about? Everyone's human, like, there's no way. The amount of times I've literally been in the middle of my diets and I'm like, you know what? I don't care. I'm having this chocolate, you know?
We're getting a KFC bucket.
Yeah, exactly. So it happens. It's just about your approach. It's about your approach to the situation leading up, and it's about your, resolve afterwards, And like we've talked about, and I know you do this in a lot of your coaching strategies, but making that sound good to people, the reward word rather than the cheat meal, or rather than, stuffing up your diet, all that negative talk, and just being like, no, what are you talking about? You've trained 3 times this week. You've stuck to the diet that I had you on. You're doing something that's not easy. Like, it's not an easy thing to do, is to
Yeah,
restrict yourself in everyday life. You're not feeling yourself because you don't have nearly as many carbs as you would do if you were eating whatever you wanted all the time. You're not able to have the sugars which make us feel so good instantly as soon as they touch our lips, like, so yeah, you deserve a reward, and we're going to keep rewarding you along the journey, and
mm.
we're going to keep allowing you to achieve your goals, which is an even bigger reward,
Yeah, and
So,
then we upward spiral because
yeah.
so it's not even just the language that's the important part here. Like, so the psychological research over many years has outlined that positive reinforcement is great. Negative reinforcement's garbage, nowhere near as effective.
Mm,
People end up, so the term is helpless or learned helplessness for those who haven't studied psych. It's basically like you get to this point where you're just like, okay, fine, like I'll just do whatever I'm told because it's easier, right?
mm,
Changing it from a because the other thing too is the word cheat or cheating. It's like it's a dirty word. It has connotations of like you're doing something wrong and dirty and secret, and it's like don't tell anyone.
mm.
So yeah, that's unreal. Like switching that over is like I think it's more significant than we're probably giving it credit for. In that, like language is really important. The words that you use are really important. This is where self talk comes in. I wrote 10,000 words on this not too long ago.
Mm,
I'm across
mm.
self talk. The importance of language is so underrated. Even just setting that as a reward, that's is unreal. How
Yeah,
good.
and it's from a coaching perspective, this is where your coach should be on the next level. And I'm going to put us on a pedestal against some other
That's all
coaches.
right.
But from my perspective, I know exactly why I put that meal in there. I know exactly why I want them to have more carbs. I know why I want them to have a ton of fat in that meal, because I know that's when their body's probably going to be craving it the most. And that's when I'm potentially going to get a spike in metabolism and things like that. So deep down, we're working on that level with them about when's the right time to reward yourself and things like that. But from a background kind of position, I'm looking at it going, I know what I'm going to achieve out of this. They may actually lose some weight, and they're going to wake up in the morning, they're going to weigh themselves, and they're going to be like, you won't believe it, I lost weight. And I'm like, well, I will believe it because that's what I wanted to achieve. And some of the times where I did it myself, I told you, when I had those high calorie days where I'd have 4,000, 5,000 calories, I'd
Mm.
wake up 2 kilos lighter. And you explain that to anyone, and it'll be a struggle for people to understand those concepts, because you're like, well, I put 5,000 calories in yesterday. How do I weigh 2 kilos less? You know what I mean? But when your body is in that starvation mode and you've pushed yourself to the limit, which you deserve that kind of meals, you'll get what you want out of it, and you'll be able to regulate your body, your homeostasis, and things like that, so you won't get into a position which you've seen me in a bit before, which is zombie mode. So you'll kind of avoid that mode, which is more of the healthier dieting. You know what I mean? So
Mm.
that's what you want to kind of avoid. And that's another thing that, your diets, they just don't have too much of that. You might get that when you're looking at a strength and conditioning coach, but it's something where I guess it's always kind of got that approach where it comes back to, oh no, we're trying to, aim towards losing, to working towards the competition, or we're trying to aid fat loss and things like that. It's not necessarily the overall goal for a lot of people. The overall goal for a lot of people is being able to understand the concepts which allow you to live a great lifestyle, and still achieve your goals without taking anything too extreme. And that's probably what I want most of my clients to get to. And then once they've done it a few times, then I'm happy to probably chat about the more extreme measures if somebody really wants to go down an elite sport kind of path and they want to take that next approach, because we've definitely got the tools and the skill set to do that. But I'd love for people to learn the foundation before they obviously
Yeah.
look at taking it to it. And not only that, but your body has to become adaptive to being able to regularly diet and change up things before going and doing anything extreme, like whether it be marathons or whether it be, long distance cycling, or whether it be, elite weightlifting, whatever it is. You're going to start with some foundation diets, which is going to teach your body what's right and what's wrong. And also mentality is going to set you up from that perspective as well too. So
Yeah, it's like I've been describing it as building a house recently, where like if the house is not on a solid foundation
mhm.
and there's no solid structure to act as a framework, it's like it's going to fall down at some point. There's going to be issues. So if you don't get the fundamentals right, then yeah, you're going to have issues down the line. So this is what I'm hoping we can do with this stuff is like someone comes in and they may have no idea about any of this stuff. And it's like,
Yep.
where do I start? Cool, we can do that. Or they come in and they're like, dude, I've been doing this for like a decade. I know this. I just need some tweaks. I want to work on X, Y, and Z. We can
Yep.
also do that.
Yep.
Perks of being, I'm going to say we're probably overqualified at this point, at least
Well,
formally. But it's
you'd hope so. I mean,
yeah,
10 hours, I mean, 10 years plus study for both of us. But that's something that you want to, like, if you get into the industry and you know this better than anyone, if you want to continuously learn, then you get to the point where I guess you're overqualified. And I guess when you start working across different sports and across different areas and stuff like that, you go, wait, I actually have a lot of tools which I can bring to this space. It's just whether or not you actually want to, and you want to keep, providing those tools and, doing that and taking it to the next level, and then constantly learning, like the whole
yeah,
time we started, since we've started doing this. I mean, how many I've gone back to all my uni stuff to go over things, and then once I go over to my uni stuff, then I go, like, well, I'm going to compare this to everything I know now, and then potentially look at the relevant literature, and that's, not only is that professional development, but that's obviously getting you to the point where you'll be able to, really help everyone in each kind of area. And that's definitely going to be, what the whole group is about. And as small or as big as your goals are, it should be achievable. It should be
yeah.
fine with the right coach. So if you don't have, if you don't have the confidence in your coach that they're going to be able to achieve that for you, then yeah, it's not going to work. So
No, I like that. It's like I'm going to say potentially overqualified, but never done. Never done
100%.
learning.
I don't think I'd ever want to be done. I think we chatted about the fact that I talked about going back and doing medicine. I would never do that. As much as I respect our doctors and stuff, I don't think I could go back to uni for that long. But I mean, you're never done. You're never done,
Nah.
because if you're done, then you can't continue to grow with the
Yeah, you're not
industry.
growing, developing, and it's just like things change too. Like it wasn't that long ago that you know poor old Mr. Freud was giving his clients cocaine, and it was like
Hmm.
happy days, off you go, right? And
Yeah.
things have shifted significantly since then. So it's you got to stay on top of this stuff. So that's what I'm hoping we can continue to do anyway.
Yeah, I had a funny call with another allied health professional the other week when I was working with one of my clients, and it was funny, and a new graduate as well too,
Yeah,
and just fresh off the boat, and just literally was just literally going, oh, like this is what I'm doing with them. I've done all these kind of things, and I said, oh no, that's fantastic, and I love it. Like I love anyone getting into any industry real fresh, and wanting to
so
give it a go.
enthusiastic.
So enthusiastic, just in the voice, and just checking off everything that we've been taught in a mental conversation with themselves as they're speaking aloud to another professional.
Mm.
And then, yeah, just kind of like started being like, oh, do you mind if you can do this, and that? And then, yeah, I was kind of just like, yeah, no worries. Like, just I always take that approach. And I'm like, yeah, cool, no worries. I'll give you a call in a couple of days and I'll let you know what's going on. And then I chatted to my particular mutual client that was kind of working with him, and I get there and he goes, yeah, I just told this, particular allied health professional, I just told them, like, don't worry, Brennan will know. Just let him work it out, and he'll get there and stuff like that. He's like, he'll always, if he doesn't know right there, like he'll always go on, he'll figure it out and stuff like that. And I was like, that's what you want. You know what I mean? Like from your
Yeah.
clients, you want them to know that if they're trusting with you with a particular life skill and something that's important, you want them to go. Their reply and their answer is going to be like, "Don't worry, they'll figure it out."
Don't worry,
Like
my boy's got this. It's all good.
yeah, we'll sort it out. So that's probably our foundation in this group is it's like no worries, like we got it, like whether I have to go and see, speak to your doctor and help you out in that position, or whether we need to refer you on for whatever reason, like we'll figure it out, we'll come back and we'll reevaluate it from that position. So yeah, the biggest thing, that you want to be is you want to be like a problem solver, and you want to utilize all those tools to be able to get an answer and to be able to, help people in the best way possible. And yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. So yeah, it's good, and it's exciting to be able to provide that service, which is for us, I guess, in this setting is so much like we can get it out there so much quicker than what we've previously been doing. Like you're in this
Mm.
little pocket of your world, which we are like, oh yeah, it's cool. Like we're helping so many lives on a daily basis with our own individual clients. So I was like, hang on a second, like we got this world wide web that everyone uses these days for everything. I was like, let's get out there and let's flood that content and be able to help more people in a in a space that's easily accessible.
Well, they
That
just got
that
to find it.
yeah
That's all. And hopefully they're taking some nuggets out of this stuff. And like as we do more, like all of these are going to be on YouTube. So
yeah
um, my plan is to basically like try and get this out for free for people. So it's like, oh, cool, I got a little tip out of that. One or two little nuggets for people out of these chats. I'll be stoked with that. Be like,
yeah,
oh, that's cool. So
and
that's
we'll
the plan
be
anyway.
we'll be chucking some links in all the bios and stuff, which will just be some free messaging tools like our emails and things like that. That if you're not fully sold on things yet, and you want to just have an email and just suss things out, and even chat about ongoing costs and things like that, which I know is a crucial part of it all, then you can obviously send us emails and we can kind of start a link chain. We can get some free calls up so that you can have a little bit of a one-on-one chat with whoever or both of us at the same time, and that way figure out exactly what kind of suits you, from that perspective, so that you can kind of be like, not just talking to each other. Like I feel like you've got that individualized approach before you actually sign up to anything as well. So that's massive as well too. Like happy to kind of do some calls with anyone just to go, this is what it's all about. And just, the best thing is just asking people, what do you want to get out of it first and foremost, and then we start there and we funnel it through from there, from that
Yep.
position, which will be sweet. So yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait to see it pop.
Same.
It'll be
That's so
good.
good.
It'll be
Oh,
mad.
let me stop this shit. That's hectic.